Good evening. The province has announced it's putting the brakes on city's plans to install new bike lanes.
The move will require city councils to get provincial approval before removing live lanes of traffic to install new bike lanes. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live tonight with more on why the province is peddling this plan. Siobhan.
Well, the government says this is really about keeping traffic moving, a congestion problem that's been growing, and they want to prevent that from happening. People living and working along this stretch of Bloor near Royal York say it's an uncommon scene. Someone pedaling in the bike lane.
Really rarely see people use that.
Traffic's backed up all the time from one intersection to the next.
It's a lot of money to spend for something that is, I think, overly disruptive.
The disruption to drivers from bike lanes like these is troubling to the provincial government.
There's room for cyclists, there's room for biking, but gridlock is at an all-time high.
The transportation minister making it official. He'll introduce a bill next week that, if passed,
would require municipalities to receive provincial approval before removing traffic lanes to install new bike paths.
The government's paving the way for pulling out existing bike lanes too.
So we've asked for data on every bike lane that has been implemented in the last 5 years. What was the data that was used to inform the decision making?
Queen's Park inserting itself into road planning in cities across Ontario.
This is an over-the-top reaction.
This is what it takes to make the change that everybody wants, so be it.
In a statement, Mayor Olivia Chow writes in part that she doesn't support limiting city powers, preferring to work together and using all types of transportation to tackle congestion. Chow adds that the province should focus on its job of getting the Eglinton Crosstown and Finch LRT open to alleviate congestion.
The City of Toronto is not casual in terms of how it plans and builds out its cycling network.
The head of Cycle Toronto points out the Bloor bike lanes went through rounds of consultation and approvals. Pushing them to side streets doesn't make sense.
People riding bikes want to go to the same places people driving and taking transit want to get to.
Those advocating for change say there's a hit to daily life along Bloor.
People that are disabled, they can't access businesses properly. Business owners are suffering.
While Longfield is empathetic to drivers wanting to get home quickly and safely.
This is happening in a year where there have been 6 fatalities for people on bikes, and those are people who aren't getting home now.
Adamant that protected bike lanes can save lives. And to further speed up traffic, the government's looking at building new highways to be able to accommodate speeds of 120 kilometers an hour and faster. Reporting live, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Still to come tonight, Hamilton police say a fatal crash is connected to a feud between students at 2 area high schools. We'll have the latest on the investigation.
There are new details tonight about the death of a man shot and killed in the city's North End last week.
Today, investigators identified the victim and pleaded with witnesses to come forward to help find his killers. CTV's Beth McDonnell is live tonight with the latest on the investigation. Beth.
Michelle, investigators are concerned about the number of witnesses who have come forward and the lack of video in this case. They're appealing to people to speak up, saying this is about justice for Marvin Baah and his family. Toronto police are trying to figure out who killed 26-year-old Marvin Baah, but say few witnesses have come forward with information about the Toronto student's death.
What I know for certain, based on the minimal video that I do have, is that there were many people in that parking lot. There are many people in our city who are aware of what happened to Mr. Baah.
Investigators believe on October 7th around 8 p.m. Baah was visiting 83 Clearview Heights when he was shot in the rear stairwell. That's near Black Creek and Trethui. He then made his way to the parking lot to rest. Baah was rushed to hospital but did not survive.
He's someone who has a very strong IT background and very excited about the opportunity to use his talent in this country.
The Ghanaian Canadian Association of Ontario is helping with funeral arrangements and has been in contact with people who knew Baah. Along with police, they've also connected with family.
I spoke to a relative from the maternal side, in Ghana, and she was very, very traumatized to hear that.
They had very, very positive things to say about him, that he was a lovely gentleman and just loved his family and loved his friends and was there hanging out, and that they don't believe that he was involved in anything untoward, and I don't have any evidence to support that either.
Data shows fatal shootings are up across this Northwest Police Division, 7 this year so far compared to 1 last year. Police believe some of the shootings are connected but couldn't get into specifics. Police believe behind the building where Baah was shot, there is an encampment where up to 3 people live and another section that was set up for the illegal distribution of alcohol and cannabis. Several weeks ago, before the shooting, officers broke it up, made arrests, and laid charges. But if there's a link to Baah's death is not known.
I can't really comment on whether or not they're related. I'm absolutely investigating every possibility.
The fence to the back area is now locked and police remain on scene. While few have come forward, there is sadness near where Baah was killed.
I can only say they have my sympathy, and I'm sorry to hear what happened. I wish they found out what really happened.
Leaving police to make a plea to those who do know what happened, to speak up and do the right thing. Anyone with information who is concerned about their safety or revealing their identity is urged to contact Crime Stoppers anonymously. Reporting live on Beth McDonnell, Michelle, Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. Still ahead, some call it Swiftonomics, anticipating the boost to our local economy when the planet's biggest pop star comes to town.
But first, a look at the forecast. Here's a live shot of the city as the sun sets. It's a little cooler outside, so you'll definitely need a jacket today and tomorrow, but temperatures will be going back up soon. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Jess.
It has been a fresher day, and wind direction really is the big player when it comes to the temperature today. A northwesterly breeze, really gusty at times, helping to feel a little cooler throughout the day. Some scattered showers, mostly focused west of the downtown core, make their way through, and there's a chance they could return this evening. But really, in towards the kind of core of the city by the lakeshore, we're staying relatively dry. Temperature-wise, it is definitely cooler. We're still holding on in the single digits as we step in towards this second half of our day. And it really doesn't change as we head in towards this evening. So if you're an early riser, again, tomorrow morning is going to be a little fresh as you step out the door. Right now, though, through the islands, we're at 9, through Pearson at 8. But again, it's that northwesterly wind that adds that coolness out there. Tonight, dropping down to just 4 degrees, which is close to seasonal. It just feels cool because it's been so warm. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including temperatures back on the rise before the week is all said and done. But right now, send things back over to Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. Hamilton police continue to investigate a deadly car crash they say was linked to a feud between students at 2 high schools.
As students mourn the loss of their friend, police are calling for an end to the tension between the two groups. CTV's Heather Wright reports.
The flag at St. John de Brébeuf Catholic Secondary School is at half-mast today as the community mourns the death of Jaden Russell, described by loved ones as athletic, funny, and most of all kind. Outside the school, his friends didn't want to go on camera, telling us they're still in shock over what happened. According to police, the fatal crash stemmed from an escalating feud between students at 2 nearby high schools in Hamilton, Ontario.
Last week, there was 2 particular incidents. There were large gatherings from each school. They met in a private property lot, and there were weapons used. Specifically, some bear spray was administered, where 5 people were treated by Hamilton EMS.
Police say the incident began in the parking lot at Brébeuf, and a Ford Focus and Silver Infiniti were reportedly seen chasing a Toyota RAV4. That chase ended up on a nearby highway, where witnesses told police 2 of the vehicles collided and lost control. The SUV with 3 people inside rolled several times. All 3 were taken to hospital, where Jaden Russell died. 18-year-old Vincenzino Stumpo has been charged with dangerous operation causing bodily harm and dangerous operation causing death. Today, police cruisers were parked outside both schools as this investigation continues.
That's why we're in the area. We are very concerned about this, and we want to stop this now.
Police are looking for a 3rd car, an Infiniti, and are encouraging the driver to turn themselves in. Meanwhile, here at the school, a memorial has been set up in front of Jaden Russell's locker, and grief counselors are on site to help anyone who needs it.
Heather Wright, CTV News.
One person has been seriously injured in an overnight stabbing in Scarborough. It happened near Midland and Eglinton just before 2:30 this morning. Police say a man in his 60s was found with stab wounds and was taken to hospital with serious injuries, but he will survive. Police have not released any information on possible suspects.
A Toronto man is facing charges after police say someone entered a mosque and uttered hate-motivated threats and slurs to those inside. This happened last Thursday afternoon in the area of Kennedy Road and Lawrence Avenue. 41-year-old Robin Lacatos is facing charges of harassment and uttering threats.
There are calls for action at City Hall to address the work done or not done by Toronto's parks maintenance crews.
This after an auditor's report highlighted issues with the system employees use to log their work. CTV's Natalie Johnson has the latest details.
On the heels of a damning audit that found that City Parks maintenance crews spent in some cases hours a day parked at plazas, malls and restaurants.
It looks like the optics here are not good.
The city's audit committee today asked, how could this have been allowed to happen?
I just don't understand how managers, people at City Hall could not see something is wrong here.
The Auditor General revealing that in a standard 8-hour workday, field crews reported more than 4 hours a day at parks maintenance locations. But the tracker on their vehicles indicated they were there just 2 hours and 36 minutes a day. In 86% of logs reviewed, the GPS data showed the vehicles parked at places other than parks or work sites.
We've had such an enormous tax increase, we expect better service.
Part of the problem, paper logs. In a review of more than 500 of them, 13% were not signed off by supervisors, 28% did not indicate the work performed at parks. As for the GPS trackers, 1/3 of the city's parks vehicles don't even have them. Staff citing a business case to not buy them, even though they cost just $200 a piece.
$200 has got to be a drop in the bucket compared to the time that was lost here.
You know, GPS has come up over and over again in different council deliberations. There just seems to be this lack of enthusiasm, but the GPS tells all.
It did indeed for the park's vehicles that had them. Staff promising to equip the full fleet by the start of next year.
We need to keep going on this and find out what we need to fix, what's really broken, and say thanks to the people that go and do a great job every day. And by the way, to those of you who don't, we're watching you.
As for what happens to the staff who are alleged to have falsified timesheets,
it's difficult to speculate broadly.
Well, no need to speculate. Just going from the examples provided in the report, does that warrant disciplinary action?
Through the Speaker, generally, that would not be appropriate, but we would review each individual case.
Is that a yes or a no?
The audit committee hearing today that would require a separate investigation. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
Ontario taxpayers have paid more than $4.3 million in legal fees over the province's contentious Bill 124. The government passed a law in 2019 to limit salary increases for public sector workers. Unions took the province to court, with the law eventually being repealed. The Canadian press has since learned Ontario paid $3.4 million to the unions and nearly $900,000 to a legal firm that handled the province's appeal.
Well, less than a month to go now until Taylor Swift arrives in Toronto for 6 sold-out shows.
The city is gearing up for the fan frenzy and the substantial influx of cash the planet's biggest pop star is poised to inject into the local economy. CTV's Raheem Ladani has the details.
Welcome to the Eras Tour.
In less than a month, Taylor Swift will descend upon Toronto for 6 concerts.
You're making me feel excellent.
And along with her Swifties comes hundreds of millions of dollars for the city.
And I can't wait until she comes here and drives economic growth.
New figures from Destination Toronto estimate Swift shows will generate $152 million in direct spending. 93% of that will come from out-of-town visitors. However, when the concerts are over and the screaming fans are gone, the economic boost doesn't stop. Swift's lasting impact is expected to grow to $282 million.
That's the important thing about these major events, is that it draws people into the city, it draws new spending into the city. That's money that didn't start the day in our economy, but it ends the day there and then continues to circulate, paying wages, paying taxes, and supporting businesses all throughout the city.
Those dollar figures do not include the actual concert tickets or airfare, because that money generally doesn't stay within the local economy. It does, however, include attractions, local transportation, and dining out. Inside Steam Whistle Brewing across the concert venue, staff are hoping for a business bump, especially this time of year.
In October, November, it starts to get cold,
There's less people moving around. It's not summertime anymore, so we're really depending on Taylor Swift coming in a way to get that volume once again from our previous summer.
And it all begins with Swift's first concert on November 14th. Raheem Ladani, CTV News, Toronto.
We have more positive economic news now. Canada's annual inflation rate recorded its smallest increase in nearly 3 years last month, slowing to 1.6%.
CTV's Paul Hollingsworth has a look now at what that could mean for you.
The Conference Board of Canada's chief economist says the financial picture in Canada is slowly improving.
We're seeing inflationary pressures come down. We have seen the labor market really weakening off in the last number of months, except for the latest month, the very latest month, where we saw a kind of resurgence in employment numbers.
The focus will now shift to the Bank of Canada's next interest rate announcement on October 23rd.
It's possible that the bank acts more aggressively and lowers rates more quickly.
Canadians are still facing tough financial pressures to put a roof over their heads. Rent prices increased 8.2%. Mortgage interest costs in September were up 16.7% compared to September of 2023. As for the cost of food,
you got to go wherever you can get the best deals.
Groceries rose 2.4% in September, a faster climb compared to the overall rate of inflation. This shopper is not finding many cheaper deals.
I don't see it. I don't see it at all.
Sylvain Charlebois says it's difficult to predict when food prices will drop. There are two main factors keeping the cost of groceries from climbing even higher.
Energy costs and our dollar. Those are the two things that are keeping food inflation at bay. If, say, a barrel of oil would have actually gone up to over $80 or $90 because of what's going on in the Middle East, we would have been in trouble.
Canadian consumers are also getting a break at the pumps. Gasoline prices in September dropped 10.7% compared to 12 months earlier. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
A diplomatic firestorm has erupted after Canada accused Indian officials of ties to murder, coercion, and extortion in this country. CTV's Mike Lecouture has the details.
A day after Canada and India announced the expulsion of diplomats from each other's countries, tensions remain high between the two nations, which are supposed to be allies.
India slams Canada. In fact, very strong language used is in the response.
The diplomatic dispute has been the top story on TV in India for the last 24 hours. The accusation that the Modi government is linked to the murder of a Canadian Sikh activist last year has been refuted by India. The RCMP went one step further, accusing agents of India of being behind homicides, extortion, and other violent acts on Canadian soil.
If an organized member of crime is being hired or being engaged by a diplomat, which just sounds just incredibly disturbing, if that's happening, that threatens everyone that lives in that community, everyone that lives in that neighborhood.
Canada says it had no other choice but to expel diplomats because India refused to cooperate with criminal investigations, and the United States seems to be supportive.
They're serious allegations, and we have wanted to see India take them seriously and cooperate with Canada's investigation. They have chosen an alternate path.
Last year, the U.S. leveled similar accusations of an alleged plot to carry out multiple assassinations in North America. However, some believe Americans haven't seen as much blowback from India because of how they took a more diplomatic route.
They have Indian officials now en route to Washington to discuss a similar situation that unfolded in their country. By going public, we have really blown this out of the water.
Both Canada and India have downplayed the impact this dispute could have on trade between the two countries, which was worth $11.5 billion last year. However, Trade Minister Mary Ng said in a statement, "We must consider our economic interest with the need to protect Canadians and uphold the rule of law." Mike Lecouture, CTV News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, Canada's public safety minister testified today at the federal inquiry into foreign interference. This latest phase of the inquiry is focusing on democratic institutions rather than specific incidents.
A former Minister of Public Safety told me when I got this job that the warrants are like the crown jewels for CSIS. because of the sensitivity of the information in the various affidavits and what's contained, but also in the ability for them to do the work that Parliament and Canadians expect them to do.
Dominic LeBlanc doesn't think it's necessary to expand the inquiry's mandate to include some of the new RCMP allegations against New Delhi. He says it is already dealing with India's foreign interference activities in Canada. The Prime Minister will appear tomorrow.
Canada and the U.S. have listed the pro-Palestinian group Samidoun as a terrorist organization. The group is believed to be behind a rally in Vancouver this month where Canadian flags were burned and protesters shouted "Death to Canada." Samidoun is also known as the Palestinian Prisoner Solidarity Network. It has what Ottawa says are close ties with another group that Canada already lists as a terrorist entity, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine.
Here at home, the latest round of carbon pricing rebates landed in Ontario bank accounts today, and this is the first time all banks will label these payments as the Canada Carbon Rebate. The Liberals are defending the policy against increasing criticism from opposition parties. The quarterly rebate will go to residents to help offset what people pay in carbon pricing. The rebates are not available in British Columbia, Quebec, and all 3 territories.
Coming up, the major gap between pediatric and adult health care and the need to build bridges, especially with those with special needs. We highlight the challenges some young people face.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, you still may have turkey left over in the fridge, but retailers are already talking about holiday shopping. A new survey finds Canadians are in a giving mood and spending is expected to jump by 10% this year. I'll have my reports just ahead.
And we went from talking about the daily hotspots to talking about the provincial cold spot, Northern Ontario. You were the one today about -8.3 through Big Trout Lake. Now, it is going to get warmer here in Southern Ontario before the week is all said and done. I'll have those details in just a moment. And stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Now that Thanksgiving is behind us, retailers are looking ahead to the holiday shopping season, hoping it will be a profitable one.
A new survey finds consumers remain concerned about housing costs and credit card debt, but they still plan to spend more for the holidays. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
They do, Michelle and Nathan, thank you. The survey found that Canadians plan to spend about 10% more over the holiday shopping season, but most won't start shopping until Black Friday, and many say with today's economy, they'll be looking for deals. It won't be long before shopping malls are decked out in holiday decorations, hoping to put consumers in a spending mood. A new survey from Deloitte Canada finds holiday spending is expected to increase by 10% to almost $1,500 this year. Despite some shoppers spending more, many will be looking for a bargain.
I'm going to try to spend about the same, but try to get more bang for the buck, basically. You know, you look around a little more.
I think you just kind of budget and you maybe do without some other things in order to be able to give gifts to the people you love.
With consumers looking for deals, many say they'll wait until Black Friday, which this year falls on November 29th.
The competition is going to be fierce. People are waiting till Black Friday because they're expecting those deals. In fact, 42% of Canadians think the best deals will be on or around Black Friday.
The survey found more Canadians plan to be charitable this holiday season, with donations up 35%, and travel spending is expected to jump 20% as more people say they plan to be away over the Christmas holidays.
Less gifts to buy, and I prefer to make memories and spend money on material things.
Trying to go away for the holidays as well, just to escape some of this expense.
Almost half of all shoppers will be buying something online, with 71% picking up something from Amazon. But now the #1 online retailer will have some added competition. The survey found that 30% of consumers plan to use the newer online shopping options of Temu, Shein, and Alibaba.
You know, the prices are really, really low. So not only are they new and exciting and inspirational for shoppers, but they're also very good value.
Many shoppers are growing increasingly concerned about data breaches and their privacy. The survey found more shoppers are concerned about handing over their personal information to stores in case their account gets hacked. And despite wanting to buy gifts for the holidays, 1/3 of Canadians are concerned about how they'll pay for them. Another third are worried about their credit card debt, and more than half worry about paying their mortgage and rent. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
It kind of looks chilly this hour, and it has been chilly today. Definitely the kind of cold that makes you think, okay, we've transitioned, and yet, based on what she's talking about, oh my goodness, it's going to be warm again. We're doing this yo-yo.
Yeah, thank goodness we've got that to look forward to, because like today, tomorrow, it really is, you could argue, winter coats.
It is. And the start of the day, this is the time of year, I think every Canadian knows this, you dress for winter in the morning, you dress for spring in the afternoon. By late afternoon, it's summertime, and then you go right back to winter. So we're in that transition kind of period. But the good news is, if you like the cooler weather, you have that today and tomorrow. And if you don't, just wait until Thursday. But we are going to hold on to relatively dry conditions as we wrap up the day today. A nice live look outside. The sun getting ready to set. It's happening earlier and earlier. 'Tis the season where it feels dark so early in the day, because it is. And temperature-wise, it is a little cool tonight. We're looking at a northwesterly wind really impacting us as we head throughout the end of the day today and into our day tomorrow before things change, and so do the winds. Right now, we're sitting at just 8 degrees here in the city, 9 through Windsor. We're at 4 in Timmins, and we're holding on to temperatures in that low to mid single-digit range tonight. Although it feels cool, and you have to add in the wind gusts, upwards of 40 kilometers an hour out of the northwest. It's pretty seasonal, all things considered. We're sitting at 4 here in the city. We should be at 5, but we are watching for some wet snow making its way through areas towards Bancroft and Peterborough. So 'tis the season to be freezing, especially when it comes to that kind of transitional mix when it comes to the precipitation, because it's just cold enough for it to turn into wet snow, but not quite cold enough for it to become full-on proper snow. So maybe a saving grace there. But it is really cool tonight. We're in that low single-digit range. Into the day tomorrow, although we are still shy of seasonal, it gets a little better. We'll sit around 11 degrees, still a really breezy northerly or northwesterly wind, and that carries us right through to the end of the day. We're not looking at much in the way of a really heavy system, but we have seen some scattered showers kind of west and east of the downtown core, thanks to this trough that kind of sunk its way down throughout the afternoon, pushing some showers into the area, but we really do stay quite dry as we head through the evening and into the day tomorrow. Again, it's just west of the city, east of the city, and we're holding on to the chance of showers this evening, but really, unless you're kind of, again, outside of the GTA, we're not looking at much in the way of heavy shower activity. Into the day tomorrow, it is cloudy to start, and we are going to see again another really cool morning. And it's as we head into the afternoon that we see the rain fully push out of southern Ontario. High pressure starts to move back in, and it will get much sunnier as we head in towards the end of the week. So the short work and school week, a little rocky to get things started, but it does kind of average out quite nicely. And as we head in towards your Friday, I promise this still works. There's just absolutely nothing going on. As we head in towards the day tomorrow, again, a little cloudy to start things off. We'll see more sunshine into that second half of the day. Still a little shy of seasonal and a little cool into our Wednesday evening, just 2 degrees. But we do a slow but steady climb to seasonal and then above. So as the wind direction changes as we head in towards our Thursday, southwesterly breeze, it will help to warm things up, and then we'll kind of teeter between a northerly breeze and a southerly breeze off and on through to the end of the week. We climb above seasonal though heading into Friday, and we stay there for at least 4 or 5 days. So if you are a fan of the cooler fall weather, the more traditional, the more seasonal fall weather, we lose that after we get through our Wednesday. Heading in towards the weekend, I know we're just getting into Tuesday, we're just back into the work and school week, but looking ahead to the weekend, it does get really sunny and really warm. So if you do have outdoor plans, maybe you're doing Thanksgiving the weekend afterwards because you were busy, it's a fantastic weekend to spend some time outside. And if you do still have sports that take place outside, it is still really nice. I know we're heading in towards the kind of playoff season for the CFL, and if there's a game happening on Saturday. Pretty nice to spend some time outside. Looking ahead to the beginning of next week, though, we're back into the 20s, so it's pretty nice. Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Looks fabulous. Thank you, Jess. Thanks. Also tonight, missing the shot on purpose. Roughly half of Canadians don't plan on getting vaccinated for the flu this season. The surprising results of a new survey.
Turning 18 can be an exciting time in a person's life. Adulthood brings new adventures and possibilities.
But as CTV's Pauline Chan reports, life's new chapter can be quite challenging for youth transitioning from pediatric to adult health care, potentially leading to gaps in care.
Joseph Spahn Vieira, who lives with cerebral palsy, has always celebrated his birthdays. But as he says in a new campaign by Holland Bloorview, turning 18 next June is no piece of cake.
Communication device, walker, wheelchair, surgery, school, wellness appointments, dentist, job skills. Once I turn 18, it all just evaporates. It's not that there's not other places that can help me, but it's all spread out everywhere.
Actually, it's quite common, and they tell us that they feel like they're falling off the cliff.
A new report by Holland Bloorview shows big differences between pediatric care and adult health care.
There isn't a holistic approach to care, and it's more client-patient focused.
Nurse practitioner Dilshad Kassam Lalani says young adults needing complex care often have a hard time finding a family doctor, leading to more emergency visits. And some health needs that used to be covered are suddenly not.
Increase is about $6,000 per year, which is about $500 a month. In care needs, that comes out of pocket.
Joseph's mom says a program at Holland Bloorview to help teens transition out of the pediatric system has helped.
He was able to be a part of that at Seneca College. He lived in a residence for 3 weeks, and it was a very powerful experience for him.
And as Joseph leaves high school,
hoping to apply for Carleton University. He's a force to be reckoned with.
So having more fighting ahead is nothing new to me, but it is a lot.
Pauline Chan, CTV News.
A survey from Rexall suggests nearly half of Canadian adults may not get a flu shot this year. The poll shows 52% of adults surveyed plan to receive the flu vaccine this season, while 35% said they weren't intending to get one, and 13% are undecided. Those 54 and under are even less likely to get the flu shot, mostly because they feel they do not need it. Those with children at home aren't any more likely to get the flu vaccine, with 60% saying they are either undecided or don't plan on getting it.
An editorial in the Canadian Medical Association Journal is calling for better miscarriage care in Canada. The paper calls for investment in early pregnancy assessment clinics that would provide a tailored, patient-centered experience with a greater understanding of early pregnancy complications and loss. An accompanying review conducted by the CMAJ found patients seeking help in the ER often receive suboptimal care, with a disconnect between the medical view of a miscarriage and the trauma it causes patients. The CMAJ says miscarriage affects 1 in 5 pregnancies in Canada. The Public Health Agency of Canada says a listeria outbreak linked to several plant-based milks appears to be over. There have been no additional cases reported since August, and the agency says its investigation is now complete. Listeria was found within the production environment of Silk and Great Value plant-based milk. The last tally of cases on August 12th remains unchanged. There were 3 deaths and 20 confirmed cases in Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and Alberta. A national recall was issued. October 4th was the latest best before date.
After the break, using AI to figure out a fair deal. Uber's new algorithm raises concern about higher prices for customers and lower pay for drivers.
There's room for cyclists, there's room for biking, but gridlock is at an all-time high.
Updating our top stories, the province is stepping in to oversee bike lanes across Ontario. Under proposed legislation, the province would have to give approval to all new bike lanes and wants to see data on how decisions were made for all bike lanes installed in the past 5 years. Toronto's mayor says she doesn't support the move to limit the city's planning powers.
There were many people in that parking lot. There are many people in our city who are aware of what happened to Mr. Baah.
A plea from homicide investigators for witnesses to come forward after a 26-year-old student was shot and killed last week. Police identified Marvin Baah as the man who was shot in a stairwell of a building near Black Creek and Trethewey a week ago Monday. Investigators believe there are many people who were around at the time of the shooting and have information that could lead police to the shooter or shooters.
And that's the important thing about these major events, is that it draws people into the city, it draws new spending into the city. That's money that didn't start the day in our economy, but it ends the day there and then continues to circulate, paying wages, paying taxes, and supporting businesses all throughout the city.
And estimating the effect of the Eras Tour, city officials believe Taylor Swift's 6 concerts here next month could bring in $152 million in direct spending, not including the money spent on tickets and airfare for visiting concert goers. It's estimated the revenue generated from the show could be in the range of $282 million.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video breaking news, let us know.
Investors are grabbing Canadian financial stocks amid hopes lower interest rates will boost loan demand. Andrew Bell of BNM Bloomberg has the latest in business.
Hello there. Toronto's index of financial stocks hit a record high today. That's after another slide in inflation raised expectations of a big interest rate cut next week. Shares in Royal Bank, Great-West Lifeco, CIBC, and web-based lender Propel Holdings were among the stocks hitting new highs. Canada's year-over-year inflation rate dropped to just 1.6% last month. Economists at BMO and National Bank are now predicting a big half percentage point reduction by the Bank of Canada on Wednesday of next week. Lower interest rates mean more business for lenders, and they also reduce the risk of defaults. North American crude oil dropped more than $3 US a barrel to trade just above $70 today. That's after the Washington Post said Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has told the U.S. he's willing to strike military targets in Iran rather than oil or nuclear facilities in retaliation for this month's missile attack. That may remove a threat to crude supply from the Middle East. The International Energy Agency, which represents oil-consuming nations, says growing U.S. production will help create an oil glut in early 2025. And finally, shares in parka maker Canada Goose dropped 9%, leaving them down 6% so far this year. Wells Fargo downgraded the stock to sell, warning that consumer interest in the company's apparel has faded lately. The bank says Canada Goose's, quote, brand heat plummeted in the third quarter, and that weakening internet search trends globally set the company up for, quote, a potential tough holiday season. It also cited a slow economy in China, which is a crucial market for Canada Goose. On the markets, the Canadian dollar was at 72.55 US cents, up just over 1/10 of a cent. West Texas Intermediate oil changed hands at $70.01, down $3.23. Western Canadian Select oil, by our latest fix, was at $63.44, down 65 cents. And the TSX Composite ended at 24,439.08, down just over 32 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNM Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Pricing determined by an algorithm has arrived for Uber riders in Canada. Drivers' pay on the platform used to be calculated, mostly using a combination of time and distance traveled. The new system uses AI to weigh other factors like rider location and day of the week. Critics say the change could push prices higher for riders and pay lower for drivers. Uber calls the new system upfront fares, which will offer a new level of transparency to pricing.
Starbucks is reportedly scaling back its discounts and promotions. The Wall Street Journal says the move is being done by the coffee chain's new CEO to reposition Starbucks as a premium brand while also reducing strain on employees. Starbucks is also planning on reducing offers during the holiday season, shifting its promotions to advertising.
In sports, the Toronto Raptors will be looking to bounce back against the NBA champs at Scotiabank Arena tonight.
5:42 left here in the third. Grady three. Step into it, and he knocks it down.
Toronto lost 115-111 in Boston on Sunday. The Raps are now 1-2 in preseason action and have 2 more games before the regular season begins against Cleveland on October 23rd. The Celtics have won all 4 of their exhibition contests.
2 Toronto Blue Jays are in the running for a Gold Glove Award for their strong defensive play.
Show made the catch.
Major League Baseball announced today that center fielder Dalton Varsho is a finalist for his position. He's up against Jarren Duran and Jake Meyer. Fellow Blue Jay Ernie Clement is also a finalist at third base. Jose Ramirez and Alex Bregman are the other 2 nominees. It's the first time for both Blue Jays. The winners will be announced November 3rd.
To hockey, and the PWHL has unveiled its regular season schedule, and fans will have more games to enjoy in the 2024-25 campaign. The Toronto Scepters begin their season hosting Boston at Coca-Cola Coliseum on November 30th. The league is increasing the number of games each team plays in its second season from 24 up to 30. Toronto's final game of the regular season is May 3rd at home against Ottawa. Training camps start on November 12th.
A Canadian soccer icon will play her final game on home soil tonight. Christine Sinclair's Portland Thorns take on the Vancouver Whitecaps girls elite team at BC Place Stadium. She announced last month she's retiring from professional soccer at the end of the season. Sinclair ended her international career last year as the world's top scorer with 190 goals.
To the gridiron, and the Super Bowl will return to Atlanta in 2028. It will be the second time the NFL's championship game is played at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the home of the Falcons, and the 4th time in the city. The announcement follows a vote of approval by team owners today at the league's annual fall meeting. New Orleans will host the game this season. It then goes to the San Francisco Bay Area in 2026 and Los Angeles in 2027.
Still to come tonight, a Canadian teen takes second place in an international neuroscience competition. We'll introduce you to the surprise student and explain why she's fascinated with the human brain.
Tonight, a sharp fall in inflation for September.
It's possible that the bank acts more aggressively and lowers rates more quickly.
What it means for Canadian household spending. We will have more on that story and more later on CTV National News.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special hello to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.